Annyeonghaseyo! Okay, so we're done with algebra. So this day, we are going to start our topic about logical reasoning. Okay, so the first topic is about the conditional statements, wherein our first subtopic is about the hypothesis and conclusion. Okay, so let's now proceed. For our warm-up, we are going to determine if the statement is true or false. Okay, for number 1, let us have the measure of an obtuse angle is less than 90 degrees. Is it true or false? So your answer here should be false, correct? Because when we say obtuse angle, that is an angle that has greater than or more than 90 degrees. Okay, next. For number 2, let us have all perfect square numbers are positive. Is it true or false? Your answer here should be correct, true. Okay? Because when we say perfect square numbers, those are the numbers that you are going to multiply twice by itself. Wherein, if you are going to multiply positive times negative, so you are having negative. But since we are having here perfect square numbers, and you are going to multiply negative times negative, so still your answer is positive. Okay, next. For number 3, let us have every prime number is odd. True or false? Your answer here is false. Why? Because of number 2. Okay, 2 is only even prime number. Okay, so again, 2 is the only even prime number. Okay, next. Let's have number 4. We have any 3 points are coplanar. Is it true or false? Your answer here is true, correct. Okay, because those 3 points can be seen in only one plane. Because when we say coplanar points, these are the points that lie on the same plane. Okay, so to proceed, let us have the if-then statements. Okay, so how are we going to relate if-then statements in our real-life situations or in other subjects? Okay, so let us have first this question. If you study hard, what will happen? So you may answer here, if I study hard, then I will get high grades. Okay, so if you are going to relate the if-then statements in mathematics in other subjects, you may relate this with cause and effect. Okay, so again, if-then statements may also have the similarity with the topic in English, which is about the cause and effect. Okay, so the vocabulary words that we are going to encounter in these topics are the following. So the conditional statement, hypothesis, conclusion, truth value, negation, converse, inverse, contrapositive, and logically equivalent statements. Okay? So in this video, we are going to focus first on the first 3 words. We have the conditional statement, hypothesis, and conclusion, wherein the other words listed here will be talked about on the next video that I will post. Okay, so let us have this slide. When we say conditional statements, they are also known as if-then statements. The if part is the hypothesis and the then part is the conclusion. So again, when we say conditional statements, it has they have 2 parts. Okay? So the if part is the hypothesis and the then part is the conclusion. Okay? So let us have this. We are going to identify the hypothesis and conclusion of each conditional statement. For number 1, we have, if today is Tuesday, then tomorrow is Wednesday. Okay? So what will be our hypothesis here? Your answer should be correct. Today is Tuesday. Okay? How about the conclusion? What is our conclusion here? Correct. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Okay? So again, we have here the hypothesis and conclusion. For number 2, let us have, if y equals 3 plus 5, then y equals 8. Okay? So for our hypothesis, we have y equals 3 plus 5. And for our conclusion, we have y equals 8. Okay. Next, for the third example, if two angles are supplementary, then the sum of the measures of the angles is 180. So which do you think is our hypothesis here? Okay, so we have two angles are supplementary. Correct. How about our conclusion? The sum of the measures of the angles is 180 is correct. Okay, any question? Okay, so if you don't have your question, so let's try. Okay, so you are going to identify the hypothesis and conclusion of each conditional statement. For number 1, if two lines form right angles, then the lines are perpendicular. What is our hypothesis here? Correct. We have two lines form right angles. Okay, how about our conclusion? What should it be? That will be, the lines are perpendicular is correct. Okay, for number 2, let us have, if a number is divisible by 2, then it is divisible by 4. What will be our hypothesis? Okay, so we have, a number is divisible by 2 is correct. How about our conclusion? That's correct. We have, a number is divisible by 4. Okay? Or you may also have, it is divisible by 4 is also acceptable. Okay, any question? Okay, so what if the statement is not written in if-then form? So how are we going to determine the hypothesis and the conclusion? Okay, so we have here, a number is a rational number if it is an integer. So what will be our hypothesis here? Okay, so that's correct. We have, the hypothesis is, a number is an integer. Okay, how about the conclusion? Correct. A number is a rational number, or the number is a rational number. Okay, question? Okay, next, number 2. A number is divisible by 3 if it is divisible by 6. So what will be our hypothesis here? That's correct. We have, a number is divisible by 6. Okay, how about the conclusion? That's correct. We have, a number is divisible by 3. Okay, any question? Okay, so we have to take note that in if-then statements, if P then Q, so it can also be written as if P Q, Q if P, P implies Q, and P only if Q. Okay? So again, these are the different ways on how you are going to write if-then statements. Okay? So let's proceed. Many sentences without the words if and then can be written as conditionals. To do so, identify the sentence, hypothesis, and conclusion by figuring out which part of the statement depends on the other. Okay? So how are we going to write a conditional statement? So I have here the statement, an obtuse triangle has exactly one obtuse angle. Okay? So for you to write the conditional statement of this sentence or this statement, you are going to identify first the hypothesis and the conclusion. So which part of the sentence depends on the other, so that you can have your hypothesis and then followed by the conclusion. Okay? So how will you write this or rewrite this in conditional statement? Okay, so you have to take note that an obtuse triangle has exactly one obtuse angle. So the blue ink here is our hypothesis, and our conclusion is the phrase with the red ink. So if we are going to write this as a conditional statement, so we will have, if a triangle is obtuse, then it has exactly one obtuse angle. Okay? So any question? Okay, so let's have the second one. Two angles that are complementary are acute. So how are we going to rewrite this as conditional statement? So again, the first thing you are going to do is identify the hypothesis and the conclusion. So again, two angles that are complementary are acute. How will it be? Okay, so we will have here two angles that are complementary will be the hypothesis. Our acute will be our conclusion. So therefore, if we are going to use the if-then form, so we will have here, if two angles are complementary, then they are acute. Okay, any question? Okay, so if you don't have your question, let us try this given. So you are going to write a conditional statement from the sentence. So I have here, a rectangle has four right angles. Okay? So what will be the if-then form or the conditional statement of this? Again, a rectangle has four right angles. Try to give your answer. Okay, so our answer here should be, if a shape is a rectangle, then it has four right angles. So again, if a shape is a rectangle, then it has four right angles. Okay, for our second one, we have, an acute angle has a measure less than 90 degrees. Again, an acute angle has a measure less than 90 degrees. So what will be the conditional statement here? Try to answer this. Okay, so we have here, if an angle is acute, then it has a measure less than 90 degrees. Again, if an angle is acute, then it has a measure less than 90 degrees. Okay, so you have the same answer with 9? Okay, so I hope so. Okay, so thanks for watching, and if you have your questions, feel free to message me. Okay, so that's all for this day. Goodbye.